Okay, so the meeting's now being recorded for Lake County Clean Water Program, Thursday, May 13th, 2:06. Okay, Bonnie, in, here we go. Okay, so I believe we have representation from everybody. We have a quorum, and Lakeport, who is your alternate for Maria? Just because normally she does the, she's our chair, so leads the meeting. So would you guys like to, if Kevin's not here, we're just missing that, or I could take it over for just this meeting. Let me know.
I think you should take it over for this meeting. Kevin wasn't able to make it. So, you know,
so we
you're
don't
good
know
at
what
leading
we
meetings.
need to do is change it from Kevin to me, but we'd have to request that in the city council.
Okay. We have a section in the meeting today. We can do that. And okay, and our secretary's hopping on now for that. Okay, great. So I did want to make sure that everybody received the meeting materials. So the meeting agenda, which has 2 logos today, so makes it unique. And then the attachments, and everything is on our website as well. And I can put the link in the chat if you just need a quick reference for where that is. Okay, so if you click on the link that's in the chat, that'll take you to the Clean Water Program Management Council documents page. The agenda is there under May 13th, as well as the attachment for this meeting. So you should be able to click on those and have all the information that you need. There are 3 attachments, the draft minutes, some TMDL updates information. We have some additional materials in there as well, which we'll review. So I'll take attendance, and then Cherish, can you hear me? You're on, yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great, thanks Cherish. We'll take attendance and let's do some introductions with that as well. And then Cherish, I did record the meeting, so it's recorded for us for taking minutes sake.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with water resources. I'm Angela DePalma Dow. I'm the Invasive Species Program Coordinator and stormwater coordinator with some help from a lot of folks. And let's go to our next Lake County. Who do we got? Daniela, and then Marina, and then Cherish.
I'm Daniela. I'm a program coordinator. Like Angela, I'm also one of the stormwater coordinator people for our department.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Marina Delajanis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director for Lake County Water Resources Department.
All right, let's move to City of Lakeport. Oh, Cherish, sorry.
Sorry. I'm Cherish. I'm just taking the minutes for the meeting. Well, yep, that's me.
Okay, now we'll move on to City of Lakeport.
I'm Jenny Byers. I'm the Community Development Director for City of Lakeport.
And I'm Bonnie Sharp. I am many things to many people in the city of Lakeport, but I focus on stormwater and building and code enforcement.
And we have Andrew too.
Hi, Andrew Britton, City of Lakeport Public Works Department.
Thank you, Andrew. And okay, City of Clear Lake, let's round it up.
Joyce Overton, City Council.
Russ Kramer, City Council. Alternate.
Go ahead. Adeline Brown, Public Works Department, City of Clear Lake.
And Mark Roberts, Senior Planner for City of Clear Lake.
All right, and then we have our additional management council members from our Board of Supervisors.
I'll go first. Eddie Crandall, District 3 Supervisor.
Bruno Sabatier, District 2 Supervisor. I'm the alternate.
Great, thank you guys so much. All right, so that was item 1 and 2. We're going to item 3, which is approval of the minutes. Oh wait, I have some, sorry. recap. Okay, this is also, I just want to make sure all the information on here is correct. Since we just did introductions, and then these are the primary representatives and then the secondary alternates.
Well, and the spelling of my last name is
Yes.
CRE.
Is that correct? Yeah.
That looked good.
Thank you. And Clear Lake, Addie, is this still correct, or you want Mark as in there somewhere?
Yeah, let's put Mark instead of Dale. You
Okay.
agree? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay for Mark. And Marina, is this still the same?
I was gonna say, let's go ahead and put myself as the primary and then Director Scott De Leon as a secondary. I don't think he's gonna be super against that.
I think he will love
but
that.
if he is, I will take the slack for that.
I think he will love that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. The other question I had was Maria was elected chair February 6, 2020 at that meeting.
Excuse, I do have one more. Is George Spur still? I'm not in the city of Lakeport.
No, he is not on the city council currently. And again, I'm not certain who's going to be the alternate. So if you want to put Jenny.
Oh, Jenny? Does it have to be, it has to be somebody from the council though, right?
So we'll have to find that out.
Okay, that's fine. We can put in TBD right now and we'll follow up on that. Maria was chair, and I can't remember if we did it 1 year or 2 years. I'm trying to choose anybody. I looked back through my notes and wasn't on there. It had
I'm gonna guess 1 year.
Yeah.
I would think that it was one, just because with changes in the city councils, it may not fall appropriately if it was a 2 year.
Right, and according to those minutes, we had Scott, or let's see, who was the vice chair was Joyce Overton. So normally, I guess sometimes we'll have the vice move up to chair and then pick another vice and they will move up to chair after that, or do we just want to select a whole nother chair? I feel like that was familiar from when we discussed this. I'm looking at the minutes now. Of course, we didn't record that at that time.
I know, sorry, I just realized that I was looking at the minutes and I didn't write that in there. I will this time.
We were learning. It was our very first meeting in like 5 years. So I think the fact that we had minutes at all was very accomplishing.
Yeah, but shouldn't we have that in our, I don't know if they were
bylaws?
The bylaws or I think it should be in there.
And those are now on our website as well.
Well, just to let you guys know, this is Joyce. I would prefer not to be the chair.
And it's difficult when you're on the phone too at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to swing in 2 meetings here.
Yeah, I'm looking. Chairperson, vice chair. Okay.
If I may make a suggestion, just for time sake, if we can just choose who will be the chair for today, based on a vote that I can't vote on, then that way we can just move on and then we'll figure out by looking at the bylaws what needs to happen next time, if we need to choose a new chair and a vice chair, or if there's something automatic that already happens.
Is that chair usually one of the elected?
Yeah.
Representatives, so that would leave Eddie.
I don't mind doing it if you want me to. I know we're at item, what, 4 or 3 minutes,
3.
But yeah, item 3.
Okay, we'll do that
It
today.
says that it does say in the bylaws that it's only for 1 year and that annually they are selected.
Okay. So we'll have Supervisor Crandall will be chaired today, and then we'll you want to pick a chair for the next meeting, and I'll reach out and see who would be willing. I want to give some preparation for who wants to do that. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, no, good suggestion, Supervisor Sabatier.
All right.
I knew it wasn't going to be me. That's why I suggested it.
I know. So with the
And it
approval
was
of the
at
minutes,
Article 5.
in Article 5 of the bylaws is what you stated?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't find the bylaws, but I'll look again later on.
I'm putting the link in the chat as well.
Okay.
It's in our documents, but if you just click on that's the by. Yeah.
Oh, I found him. Got him.
All right.
All right, so you want me to continue forward then?
That'd be great. And yes, we are on item 3 here.
All right. And so has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes and read them? Did we reread them last time? I know some people like to read through them.
If you guys want to take a minute and read through them, yeah. It has
No,
been 3 months.
Well, there's some people that like to just have someone to read them. So I will make sure you guys don't want to do that first.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So how about we'll start right now, and at 2:20, is that enough time?
Sounds great, Chair.
Okay, there we go.
Does anybody not have a copy of the minutes?
It was in our
Packet. It was in the packet.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was in the invite with everything else.
Yep, and the link
Yeah.
is right here in the chat as well.
I will make a suggestion since this gets put into the public record. I would like to suggest on the item number 5 for the Betsy Con portion, if we can, it just seems almost antagonizing or belittling, doing what she can in contacts with the Risk Reduction Authority to get that group of people to recognize. How about we just say Risk Reduction Authority recognizing and getting more involved with stormwater program activities. It just, for the public record, it kind of belittles that group. And I want to make sure that maybe that's not the most appropriate way to move forward. That would be my suggestion.
Well, thank you.
I think that's fine. Cherish, or you okay with that change? And I can help you too.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that. If everyone else is, I think I like the ideal about it.
If everyone has read the minutes, I can make a motion to approve the minutes with the recommendation of the edits on item, was that item
5?
4.
5 regarding, yeah, the Risk Reduction Authority.
I have a motion by Marina Delagiani. Is there a second?
I can second.
Is that by Angela? Second?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion and a second. How do we do this roll call? You want to call for the roll call, Angela?
Sure. I think we just say all in favor and thumbs up or say aye, and if there's any.
Let's do the thumbs up portion. That way, can you see everyone? You can see everyone if they give a thumbs up.
If I may make a quick suggestion and steal this from James Gore in Sonoma County, just ask for who opposes. That way it's easy.
Yeah, that is the best one. Is there anyone that opposes this?
I was so ready for
As long
my
as
thumbs
people-
up.
I know, I was like, don't get
I'm so excited.
You can put the thumbs up if you want. I just did. But yes, so it seems as if the minutes are passed unanimously. And so we'll move on to, I think it says meeting materials additions acronym cheat sheet. Is there, I know that that was under the item
Oh,
3.
yep, that's in the agenda. You were right. And that was an item that Cherish wanted to bring up to help make it easier for us, Cherish. And the public. She looks like she's not there. Maybe she's helping somebody at the counter. So basically this was, she put together a little acronym sheet to put in every meeting packet. As you guys are aware, the stormwater permits and things like that have a lot of acronyms. And there's so many things. And you know, some of this group, if we've been meeting for months or years, we're familiar with some of those acronyms. But sometimes there's new ones that come up, or we'll have new members that are joining that are unfamiliar with some of the acronyms we learned. So at the back of every meeting packet, she'll have just an acronym list that'll be in the meeting materials. So anybody that's going through the attachments or the minutes and has an acronym that they can't identify, they can just quick refer to that list. So we did a quick list of those, and she was gonna present those, and we'll ask for it, I guess, when she gets back from helping somebody at the counter. But if there's any acronyms that we come across and we need to just make a note of it to make sure and just let Cherish know, and she can add that in there.
A good idea.
Hey, Angela, I can also share my screen with, sorry, I was helping someone. I can share my screen with what I have so far if you'd like.
Yes, that sounds great.
Sorry, that's what happens when you're sitting at the front desk.
That's what I figured. I was like, I'm sure there's a good reason. Someone was asking her some question about something.
Sorry. So can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I had taken a minute class, and this is something they went over. The county, we love acronyms. So I started making this list of items just from previous minutes, previous meetings, bylaws. I'm going to go over bylaws a little bit more just to make sure that I have everything. You'll notice some are empty. I'm still working on those ones. But it's just any acronyms that happen to pop up, and just to add them on. It honestly, me just typing this up helped me a whole lot more understand things. I think people get overwhelmed, and I think adding this on will help people maybe understand a little bit better and maybe not feel so overwhelmed because they'll have the list of definitions. So anytime you guys want to add anything to it, just let me know. I will be attaching them along with the minutes every time I do them. So yeah, so there you go.
That sounds great.
That does sound great. Someone just put something on, I think QUAP.
WAP.
Okay.
Talking
I
a
think
lot
it's
about this.
QAPP, yes, but it's pronounced.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought I got it wrong.
Hence the need for an acronym sheet.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. Cherish, is there a best way? Do you want, like, for example, if we have another acronym to send you, do you want us to email you? How do you want us to get that to you?
You can call, you can email. Calling probably isn't going to help me because I'm going to ask you what that acronym says. And I probably won't be able to spell those words. So emailing me would probably be best. But yeah, email, you can always call. I'm always here. Any way that works best for you guys. I'm just here to support you guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else has any questions or comments about this item? Is there anyone in the public that wants to state anything? We usually have public people here, right? I mean,
Yeah, we usually have one or two.
yeah.
I did
Just wanna
put a
make
notice
sure
on
everyone-
Facebook and it's in the schedule, but
All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item 4, consideration of any items not posted on the agenda. Do we have any of that? Has anyone received
I just
anything?
wanted to update, since we have a slight pause here. I just wanted to say that Jenny reached out to our HR person who said that Michael Green is the alternate for this. So since we had that slight moment, I figured I'd put that there.
Okay.
is that how I spell his name? That's Michael. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe there's an E at the end.
of green?
I think it's green E.
Green,
I don't know, I'll have to check.
I will check.
I know.
Okay, awesome. Fix that.
No E at the end, just
Oh.
color green.
I don't know where that came from.
It's fancy.
He's thinking of Al Green. No, wait, no, there's a different green. Sorry. All right, let's
Ooh,
move on to
green
item
is
number
that?
one. COVID-19 updates related to stormwater programming. Angela.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this is just our regular, just wanted to check in and see if there was any updates or any issues from anybody, and I have to. Okay, doesn't want to stay. There we go. Okay. And so we can, from the county, we don't have anything, but I did have something for national, but I wanted to give to the cities. Do you guys have any updates? We're just kind of operating as normal. Restrictions. Most of our staff is vaccinated, so there's a little more, you know, we can get more people and materials when we go in trucks. When we're in the public, we still try to wear masks to make sure that we're demonstrating that safety precaution, and because you never know who you're going to interact in the public that may not be vaccinated. And so we're still kind of just doing that. We haven't done a whole lot of stormwater activities because there's no storms, at least outside. So is there any news from the county and then or from the cities on this?
No, basically the same. A lot of us have been vaccinated or given the opportunity to be vaccinated, and we continue to wear masks and you know, set the example for our communities. But other than that, nothing.
And the city is following OSHA guidelines. We're hoping that OSHA catches up with CDC quickly. But as far as our office, we're going to stay compliant with OSHA so that we don't receive fines.
Great.
Pretty much the same for the city of Clear Lake too. We're all just following the rules. So those that wanted to get vaccine could, and you know, it's been offered to them.
Great, thanks for that, those inputs. And I just want to share something. There was a recent survey, so this is pretty recent, last month, through a stormwater collaborative group called Stormwater Solutions. And they sent out a survey to stormwater practitioners asking about how they feel about traveling amid COVID-19 now. And I'll just demonstrate some of the results just so we get an idea. You know, a lot of our stormwater training opportunities have to be in person. We actually look how things are being done on the land, or we know we go somewhere and learn about tools. So one of the questions they asked was, when will you feel most comfortable to begin traveling for in-person work-related events? And so they broke it up by quarters. That's usually how we do that. And so about half, you know, sometime within the first or the second quarter up until June. And then the next largest amount was completely in 2022 completely. So nobody's planning really any in-person, or, you know, half of these folks surveyed aren't really comfortable traveling for the next year or so. There were some other questions that were asked, like specific events, and this gives you a little idea. So local trade shows and conferences. Before COVID, we had a training with Mendocino RCD planned. So that would be like a regional conference or regional event. And so definitely people feel a little more comfortable attending those regional ones versus natural trade shows and conferences, which is a larger feeling of being uncomfortable in attending those. We do have some state conferences. So Casca is the state. That's where we get all of our basically all the rules the water board sets forth are kind of helped determine through Casca. And so that would be a state's kind of conference. And you can see, you know, not that many people would feel comfortable traveling to those events now. So Casca, I think, is planning a virtual event in October as of now. But just want to give you some idea that stormwater fields are thinking about these kinds of things. Oop. Okay, so is there any questions on this, I guess? That would be. Just want to give some insights. All right. So we're ready to move on to the next item.
All right, so that would be old business, and as it would be update on EOA PEEP, and that is that is your subject as well.
Yeah, and again, we just want to thank, we got, the county was able to pay for this project through cannabis tax funds, and then joint funding with City of Clear Lake and Lakeport. This is our current status. I don't have anything to report for this meeting. At the next meeting, though, they will be doing a presentation on this. They'll be completely done. And so they'll have their effectiveness plan to present, as well as some recommendations for how we can improve the plan. It's in draft. Both Lakeport and Clear Lake, you guys have reviewed it. I'm still in review on it. And I am communicating with EOA, and we're definitely going to have it finished and finalized by June 30th, which is when the year-end reporting is for that. And so that acronym, the PEEP, is the Program Effectiveness Assessment Improvement Plan. It's a requirement we were supposed to have done in 2015. We're finally getting around to it.
Good job.
Okay.
Any questions about this? Anybody else? No?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Since it's so far behind, I might have asked the question before, and I'm sorry if I don't remember the answer. Has there been any penalties for being so far behind? And do we have a specific deadline for when this needs to be done and completed?
So what we've done, at least since I've been here, I can't say for the reporting when I wasn't here before, but I've written a letter every year and submitted it saying, we had a fire, we had floods, we don't have staff, we haven't been able to do this. But I've always said, when we plan to get it done, and that's been fine so far. We haven't got penalized for this. So, we're doing the best we can for this, and we'll have something to report on it now. I definitely think they wanted it before the next permit, which is probably going to go next year, because what they did is they did every county and municipality that has an MS4 permit, stormwater permit, did these, and then they used all that information to help them make their next permit round. The state did. So we just didn't get included for that. But so did they answer your question? Yes. Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions? Hey, nothing. I think we'll move on to item B, LID document update.
So we had, I think between the last meeting, we had 1 or 2 meetings for this. This is the low impact development. We did a primer on low impact development during the last Clean Water Program meeting. We were able to get through the whole document, and then we're just reviewing the appendices. The appendices are somewhat trickier just because there's lots of specific things in there that we need to make sure are current. And then now that we, at least on our side, we don't have a planning director, we won't soon, that makes it also difficult for us to get some of those higher level things approved or vetted in this. But we have a schedule for that. And if anybody wants to attend those meetings and be involved in this, let us know. But we didn't want to do a report out until we had like a almost final version that then we could share. And if anybody wanted the opportunity to review or look at it, have questions, we could do that. We did want to have an appendices that had low impact developments related to cannabis projects. And so we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do that and who would be the best for that. And again, that's something that's specific with the county, but we know that there are boundaries. You could have a county cannabis project and there could be downflow or downstream impacts to a city, another jurisdiction. And so we want to make sure that when there are these projects that could have low impact development implemented, even if there's cannabis, that we're putting everything in there so then it's easier for planners and those that are issuing those permits to have something to refer to. Bonnie, did I miss anything in that? You're on mute, lady.
Oh, sorry. So basically, no, you covered most of it. It is going to be given to each of the jurisdictions to review. And then we're going to ask EOA to review it as well. During that period of time, I'm hopeful that there will be a planning director or someone that can step up in the planning division at the county to address the cannabis part so that we can just add it to it. If that is not the case, then we want to move forward with it and then just have an amendment that would include a separate part, policies part that's just for cannabis, so that we don't overlook it and have another 8 years that we don't do something for it. But this will not hinder us from actually moving this document forward.
And we'll reiterate that the city of Clear Lake has adopted a version of this already. So they're using it already in their plans. They are participating in the updates. So then when the updated version is, they can readopt that one and use the most current and updated standards. All right. I think that's it on that. Oh, question?
Yeah, I have a question, 2 questions. One of them is possibly a sensitive subject, but did you say that we don't have a planning director? Because we do have a planning director. There's a potential change coming up, but I don't know that this needs to be stopped because of that situation that's happening in community development. I think it's important to try to have continuity if we can. Also, my second part is, I know you mentioned the potential impacts from cannabis. Is the overall thing looking at agriculture? Because I always put cannabis under agriculture, and I think that we just need to be wary of any and all potential impacts and not just only looking at cannabis. Wondering if that scope is a bit larger.
Yeah, so it's the LID that we're required to do doesn't cover ag because they have their own requirements through the water board and their own permits.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think I don't know.
Yeah, no, I said my part.
Okay. And yes, you were right. So we're not stopping work. We're not like, oh, we don't have a director, we can't do anything. It's just very helpful. There's sections in there where it needs that higher level perspective and influence, especially with we don't want to do something and then the goal of the I'm trying to say the trajectory of something that's being planned in that department doesn't then match up what we put in here, but then we have some approved document. So that's the kind of thing that we want to make sure that there's that high level review to make sure everything's actually aligned. This is what we have to do by the state, but we also want to make sure it aligns with what we're doing, what we plan to do for these things, for building and in construction.
Basically reviewing over the zoning ordinance requirements and how the impact development standard would coincide with those zoning requirements. We want to make sure that everything's fluid so that when the planner is assisting someone at the counter and they're saying, okay, we need to have this, that those documents are going to back up what the zoning ordinance is requiring. And that's what she's talking about.
It looks like Addie, I answered a question for you. Okay, it was about the Clear Lake.
It was about the LIV document.
Oh,
updating it to meet your guys's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's slow going, so it's not like we're gonna have something finished anytime soon. There's gonna be lots of time for review and for things to get changed and updated. So it's not. So we'll make sure that there'll be lots of time for review, and we have a schedule itemized, and we have. You guys brought up a question about CEQA review at some point, and that is on the schedule to do that, and then have our EOA contractors review it too and make sure it's actually current with the permits that we have to comply with as well. Is there any other questions on that one? Okay, good.
I don't have any. So we'll move on to C, total maximum daily load, and I don't know what TSO means, but updates.
Is that in our acronym list, Cherish?
It sure is. Time scheduled order.
Time scheduled order.
Yeah, so the TMDL expired in 2017. We didn't meet our compliance in 2017, so we got issued what's called a time schedule order. We were lucky enough that we were able to kind of help design what that was and set up our own timeline. And so one of the tasks that we needed to do, but we were able to to choose one way to do it was task 3. And that was the calculator. You guys, we demonstrated that to you. We all put in joint funds for EOA to do that for us. And so that calculator was submitted to the water board along with the guidance docs. And they approved it. They accepted our waste load allocations, and then they issued our meeting of our task 3 deliverable. With our next step is just, we are producing some sort of sediment and phosphorus that goes into the lake above the levels that should be there. And so we have to have a work plan for how we're going to reduce those inputs. And that's due in August. We are having and those are both of those attachments, both the reporting letter that we sent with our waste load allocations, WLA, and the response from the water board are the attachments 2A, 2B. And we have a calculator training June 3rd. So what we want to do is want this training to be like a tool. So as we're thinking of developments that are going in or big projects, how do we make the most efficient use of how we're putting on the land to reduce sediment phosphorus as much as possible? And we can use that tool, that calculator, as a tool to do that. And that was the whole point of getting that tool made, was to have a really good picture of what we can do in smart planning, basically. So we have that June 3rd. I've invited a lot of people to that from multi-jurisdictions, but if there's somebody that should be going to that, please let me know or share that invite. And then we have to send any questions or examples to EOA 1 week prior. So for example, Lakeport, you guys have that nice park that's going in there next to Library Park. There's probably lots of opportunity. I think you guys have to reduce your load allocation by like maybe 100 kilograms of sediment phosphorus in a year. If there's something you could put in that park, some BMP, like a little basin or a little small wetland, or maybe some check dams or something that would be able to reduce that, you could meet your waste allocation really easy. And that would be in your plan. And you could use the tool to kind of put those in there and see what that would be. And then, we can use that training to kind of demonstrate how you would do that. And they're going to walk us through that as well. Does that make sense? Right. Same thing, City of Clear Lake. I think you guys didn't have that much to reduce to meet compliance, and you have a big park going in as well. So if you have those designs and you have some areas there that might act as infiltration or BMPs, you can see what the impact would be on sediment phosphorus and reducing your water quality impact at this event.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any questions on that? Okay.
Yep. All right, so I think, does that cover the item C?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to new business. There's no other questions or concerns on the item 6C. We'll move on to new business action item, pyrethroid order monitoring and management plan. So let me find, there's something in the documents that talk about this, right?
I don't think I put them in there this time, because they're really long.
Yeah, no worries.
So we received an order from the state to monitor pyrethroids from urban areas. Does anybody know what pyrethroids are? You all do, or you all don't know?
No.
Urban pesticides. So you got cockroaches around in your house. You go to the Home Depot, or you go to your Kelseyville Lumber, and you get your bottle of, Home Defense, and there's a permethrin in there, and you go and you spray around your house to keep the cockroaches out. So the permethrin is a type of pyrethroid. There's 5 different ones the State Water Board is interested in, and they gave an order for all of us MS4 stormwater programs to either monitor. So we have to one time just do some monitoring, go out, collect some water, during a storm event and then send it to a lab and analyze if the permethrins or pyrethroids are in there at some trigger level. They picked ridiculously low trigger levels. They also have another test they want us to do, which is an insect. So, and that has to be in the sediment. So we have to find a spot where we can take a sample during a storm event where there's sediments, and they're going to put a little insect in there and see if he survives or some trigger to see if there's permethrins in there. That was one option. That was a one-time thing. We wrote a monitoring plan for that, and I think I presented it last time. It was in draft. We got some free support for writing that from the California Rural Water Association. Rachel Kennard helped us write that, spent a lot of hours, and then we went through and reviewed it. And let me see I think I have the budget coming up here. Hold on, let me get it. And we picked 4 spots to do that monitoring. And I think the total came out for this one-time event to be 45. I can share this budget with you guys. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is in addition to our baseline stormwater monitoring, which we have to do in addition, and just like all of our other sites. This is a one-time kind of shared expenses among us all. And then with our breakdown of area and population, this is what it would be for kind of each actually, no, we just broke it up like this because we each have there's 4 sites. Lakeport has 1, Clear Lake has 1, and then Lake County has 2. So that's what it'd be broken down because it's just those sites. So that was one option. The other option that the water board gave us was to do a management plan. And of course they have some content requirements, but they don't have any examples. They gave us an example from Sacramento, which is a lot bigger jurisdiction. So they were like, yours doesn't have to be this big because you're not Sacramento, you're phase 2, you're smaller, but they did give us this example of this management plan. So what we need to decide is our best use of resources would be doing a one-time monitoring and chance that we might not hit the trigger levels. And that's it. Once we do the monitoring, hey, we don't have pyrethroids, we don't have to do anything else. Or skip the monitoring, assume that we have it, and then just do a management plan. And then the management plan involves a lot of we have to have a website, we have to outreach, we got to make some tools, we got to educate people on not using excessive amounts of pyrethroids. The water board is really pushing us to just do a management plan, which I understand because they're saying that's the most effective way to reduce impact on waterways of pyrethroid use. Our Department of Ag, we met with them in 2018 in the summer when we first got this order and asked them, what do you guys get permethrins? Do you have pyrethroids? And even from their ag areas, they said, we don't get that many. We don't get that. You guys shouldn't do a plan. You should just do monitoring. You're not going to get anything. So yeah, question?
Yeah, do our water companies test for that? The ones that draw from the lake and stuff like that?
I don't think so. I can reach out to that can be an action item for me, Cherish, as I could reach out.
Because I would suggest if it doesn't show up before they treat the water, that maybe it's not that big of an issue. I don't know. Maybe it dilutes itself in the lake and that doesn't actually give us an actual idea of what's really happening.
Yeah, and that brings up a point because I asked the water board. So in their order, they say you're receiving water body. Okay, I was like, our receiving water body is Clear Lake. We do sampling every month. Can we just sample from there and say it? And they said, no. We mean you're receiving water like where the pipe comes out into the creek or stream. We want it right there. Technically, it's not receiving water body, but their order was very confusing in general. So what they want is right after the pipes from an urban area, they want that sample to characterize is that urban area producing pyrethrin. So I don't think that would work. And also I know when we do treatments and other things, the purveyors target their what they sample for when there's events going on. So when they know it's a big orchard spray week, then maybe they'll do a sample, but not just ambient monitoring. In general, these kinds of tests are really expensive. For any sort of herbicide, pesticide, you have to know what you're looking for. And these specific ones, the water board wants are very specific and yeah, kind of expensive and pricey. Question?
Yeah,
Russ?
well, not just a comment. Pyrethroid insecticides are generally much less toxic to humans, mammals, birds, etc. They're used preferable to organophosphates, which of course are much more toxic to all of those things, and I would think including fish. So that's one reason I think why the agricultural board is not that worried about pyrethroid insecticides. They're derived from they're naturally derived, as a matter of fact. So, anyway, that's my answer, and I can tell you a little more about it, Bruno, if you're interested later on.
I was also on the call with the state, and Angela's right. They were really trying to push us towards the management plan. We had a conversation afterwards. You know, Angela's doing a great job of trying to put all these things together on documents that haven't been in effect for the past 20 years that we've been supposed to be doing. And I feel like the state is breathing down our neck a little bit, that the county finally went, okay, we're going to do something about this. And now the state's just on us about everything. But my concern with the management plan, we have the 4 areas that we're going to test for the pyrethroid. The gamble is that it's not going to be high enough in those 4. But because we're such a unique water body, I think the concern would be that we're going to do this, we're going to expend this money for the pyrethroid, and they're going to be like, that was nice, you need to go do more, or you need to do, and so we're kind of at that threshold of, do we change directions, which it's easy for me to say, let's change direction because I'm not the one doing it, it's Angela. But do we change direction at this point? Do a management plan. Like she said, it's ongoing, but it's also, you know, things that in the future we're gonna have to do anyways. They're saying it's just one time, but the way that they were expressing it on the call was, I wrote it down, and 3 times they strongly suggested we do the management plan. In a 30-minute phone call, but so.
They also, when I asked, like, well, if we do a management plan, you can still have us do the monitoring at a later date. Like, nothing's saying just because you do a management plan, they're not going to require monitoring. But my question was, how do you know if that management plan's working if you don't do monitoring right now, and then do a management plan, and then later you monitor and you get reduced? So it seems, you know, you do a management plan and then you monitor, they say, oh, it's not at the level that we want. Okay, here, you have to do more in your management plan. You know, it builds. So I don't know what the right call is. I have reached out to EOA, our consultants, to see what it would cost for them to do a management plan for this, because we don't have the capacity to do that. We don't have the staff and capacity, but we could split the cost, and EOA would look at exactly what the water board wants and make it exactly what they want. They just did our assessments effectiveness, and that had a lot of outreach things in there that we do or don't do. So they already have a good familiarity with where we could incorporate you know, these activities to meet the management plan. So they would make their management plan around that for things that we kind of already do or that we could dovetail off of. And they're still getting back to me. They haven't done one just yet, but they've done similar ones for other jurisdictions, similar like TMDL pyrethroids for other jurisdictions, and management plans for those kinds of things. But if it's something that we want to get an official proposal from them, I just need to get your guys's, you know, consensus if we want to go that pathway. Or if we want to do this one-time monitoring and, you know, hope that it works out. There's not, you know, our trigger levels are low.
So this is Joyce. I have a question. I mean, the reality is, as you said, that we have a management plan, but we haven't monitored anything. I mean, how are we going to show that that's even working anyway? So why would we not just go ahead and do the monitoring now and maybe and start planning to do a management plan in the future?
Yeah, and there's nothing saying that the water board won't incorporate it in a future permit anyways, as a pyrethroid management plan for urban areas.
Right. I'm sure they will at some point in time, but this will give it a time, and the cost difference is what I guess my question is also. What's the cost difference between doing the monitoring and the plan? But even if you do the plan, we're still going to have to do the monitoring to know where we're at anyway, to know whether the plan's working or not. So I think either way, we need to do the monitoring.
And it's nice right now with EOA. My only thing with the management plan also with EOA, we kind of have a momentum going, and the farther away they go from working on a Clear Lake project, the more ramping up they'll have to do. And so it might be beneficial from a cost perspective to do that management plan now while they have the knowledge and while they have the experience with us.
But wouldn't we still need to do the monitoring also? Either way we go, I think we have to do the monitoring no matter what. Otherwise, we're not going to know if the plan's working because we don't have a starting point.
Yeah, at this point,
deferral to each.
They're not making if you want to do management plan, they're saying you don't have to do monitoring. So they have like these reference sites where they've done monitoring and management, and then it's had a beneficial result. So they're using that as like, if you just do these things that these other places did, you'll be able to reduce your pyrethroid in your environment. We don't really know for sure if it's actually happening where you are, but because you're doing these practices and these things. But again, that's a long-term investment. We're already behind and not compliant with our regular baseline stormwater outreach requirements and management plans that we currently have. So this adds another long-term thing to be considered for that management plan, which again, they might make us do one, but it might be in like 2025 or.
But again, when they're talking about the management plan, they're also stating that by doing so, you are accepting the baseline for the overall other areas that have it. So they're taking whatever baseline that is overall for your area. So whether or not you meet that, you're accepting that that is the baseline.
Yeah. And for example, some things we have to do would be outreach for landscape irrigation practices, just one of their examples. And that would be providing a minimum of 2 annual training opportunities to landscape design maintenance professionals, including partnership agency staff, particularly on IPM, which is integrated pest management principles and practices. And then it accompanies with the landscaping websites that's eco-friendly and written materials. So this is a lot of stuff that, if we had an RCD that had more capability, this is exactly what those RCDs are supposed to do. We could contract the RCD to do that. I don't think our current RCD has the capability to help us do this right now. Maybe the extension would be, but that takes a lot of work to go, and do that and get that all set up. Yeah, Bruno?
So just to make sure, we're still on 9A?
Yeah.
The pyrethroid?
No, but this is part of 9A, but it's actually new business because there's an action item. It's 7A. But when it gets to 9A, we'll get to skip it because we already talked about it.
Oh, sorry. 7A. I jumped to the next part. Because in my opinion, if we're being told by those in the local area that it's not the magnitude of the pyrethroid is not intense at this moment in time, and we're not being forced to do one or the other by the state, I would say right now, let's do the minimal versus having to do a whole lot more than we might have the capacity to do. Or else we're going to have to find out where we can get some money, and we're going to be doing things that may just end up getting us the results that we're kind of being told. Granted, it's only agriculture. Nobody's perfect, and everyone has its own personal biases. But at the same time, if we're not being forced by the state to do something and they're not giving us the funds to do it, then I say we do what the minimal is at this moment in time.
And to add to that, I think that falls under the Ag Commissioner's office.
Because it's MS4 areas, it's urban areas, it's not under their office, it's not under their purview. They have their own state orders, they have their own TMDL requirement that's in their irrigated irrigated lands area for their own permittees. So because this is in areas, and I could show up this map again, these are our proposed locations, these red diamonds, but all these urban areas that are outlined, those are our MS4. That's what our program governs basically, and that's for stormwater. And so those are the areas that this pertains to. So it's trying to identify urban sources or urban impacts of pyrethroid. Also, I just picked this spot right here at Upper Lake, but if there's an area that we think there's going to be no, where people probably more likely won't apply herbicides, we can try to pick that location as well, and then just justify it in our monitoring plan.
The only caution that I would say is, again, I think that Rachel and Angela have worked so incredibly hard for what we have currently. But my concern is the fact that if the state is already pushing to have a management plan, then I think that's what they're trying to imply to us without actually stating it, is the direction they want us to go. And my concern is that if we aren't taking their highly encouraged suggestions, how that's going to impact the future and the requirements that they're going to have for us.
So can I make a suggestion? I'd like to make a suggestion. Can we get a bid on what it would cost to do the management plan? I mean, since we know that we're going to have that done eventually, maybe we can get a bid and see what the cost difference between the monitoring would be for us and the difference between doing the management plan. Do you guys have an idea?
EOA doesn't have a proposal together yet. I was waiting to see. Let me just double check if she had any. The other thing is that the management plan is due in August, and that's when our next meeting is.
Right, August 14th, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we could have another meeting next month if you guys are really excited about it.
We could. Well, I mean, we need to do whatever we need to do. So.
And just to think too, also what it's going to cost the department in time that's spent. I know, I like that we're looking at the cost of it, but I'd also like to see what it's going to cost your department on working on this. So if it's more cost effective to pay for something a little more, I don't mind doing it if it, makes less of a burden for your departments.
That's a great point. And yeah, if we all joint and put in on a pyrethroid pesticides management plan, the staff work to get that, just those joint MOUs through all of our legals and then through our boards. I did that last time for EOA. It is a burden. We have already written most of the monitoring plan. The state has reviewed the monitoring plan. They weren't happy with it. There's a lot of edits on there. But we can update that and we can get on it. That's more within our skill set. That will take a little burden too, but it's kind of, if we want to do a management plan and get a proposal and then agree on the costs and then develop all that paperwork to go through and get that approved, that split cost, we could do that too. That takes, pretty good work, or just finishing up the monitoring plan and then, but that costs money to actually do the monitoring. The other thing is to think about the logistics. When are we actually doing stormwater? When's our first flush? When do we get that first rain usually?
It could be any time now.
Bruno, why would you say that?
I mean, maybe we get some showers in
November.
October, November, we got that snow rain, right? Is that when people are applying their, pesticide stuff to their, I don't know. So there's a timing thing too. If it was springtime, sure, we would definitely go over the triggers. If it's fall, those first flushes when we get, that coming in.
You do put dormant sprays, but those are fungicides on trees. I know I do in my yard as well as in our orchard.
Yeah.
But other than that, well, actually, in agriculture anyway, strip sprays for that are there are sprays put in the winter that will stay over winter and hopefully stay in the ground. But those, again, those are agricultural products that are under the purview of the ag commissioner.
Yeah, those are larger scale, right? So they might be, maybe somebody might, you know, if they're urban farm, but probably outside of the urban city.
Yeah,
community growth boundaries.
and to be fair, those materials can be purchased, you're right, in the store without having to go through the permit process that the ag commissioner would demand.
So real quick, the options are, you've already started on the monitoring plan. We could continue on that, but you're worried that there's not enough capacity and staff to actually do the monitoring. We could do a management plan, but we haven't started on that, and we'd have to go out and probably get a bid for getting that management plan done. Or we could do both, which hasn't necessarily been put out there as an option, but just it's, I guess, a possibility. Are those our options that we're looking at right now? That you're asking us, which one do we want to move with?
Yeah. Now, the monitoring plan, actually doing the monitoring, we have staff capacity to do that. You know, we're all starting our stormwater monitoring baseline, which isn't pyrethroid, it's just regular what it's in stormwater. And that's starting next year too. We all agreed and decided to start that then, and that we have a plan for that. And so it'd be easier to just do that pyrethroid sampling with the same staff and tools. In fact, Clear Lake has already reached out to county and been like, you guys have all the equipment, you have the capacity, can we pay you to just do our site, our one site for pyrethroid for us? They've submitted a rough, you know, MOU for that. And I have it to talk about it with my managers and figure out if that's what we want to do based on this conversation. But that's something that
Lakeport plans on doing the same.
And yeah, so we have field staff. We can do the monitoring. We're excited to do the monitoring. These field sites, the one in Middletown is gorgeous. Like we don't mind doing that. We don't want to do that, spend the money, and the state come back and be like, wow, your triggers are so high. Not only do you have a management plan, but now you have this and you have that. You know, and the water board did tell me that our ag department didn't know what they were talking about and that we really should just do a management plan. Right, Jenny?
Well, yeah. And when they were talking about doing the management plan, some of their suggestion was also because our monitoring plan, I think there's 130 something items that they felt were deficient in the monitoring plan. And so it's like, what?
And most of it was the QAPP. So the QAPP, which yes, was incomplete. We didn't submit it complete. I do get that. That will take some staff. That'll take us a day to go through and get that updated. Yeah. Yeah, but that's good.
So I know that I don't know if it was Jenny or Bonnie, I'm sorry. Lakeport suggested that we look at doing the management plan because obviously that's where the state of California is seeking for us to go in the long run. Can you provide what your option you think, what is your recommendation? Angela?
I think the problem with our recommendation, I was just talking because I was on the phone and I heard what the state was saying. And by them repeatedly stating they felt we should go with the management plan, but I'm not the one doing the work. I'm looking at Angela and going, you know,
right.
either way we go, it's a burden on county's time.
Yes.
So I'm acknowledging that, and I'm gonna, you know, play the political game of these are the two options.
And the monitoring, or I mean, the management plan will have components that we all need to fulfill. And we're having a trouble right now fulfilling obligations, just our other ones, our regular stormwater ones. So that burden, you know, that burden's kind of shared, but it's also as us as kind of wrangling all that together. So yeah, it's a pile either way you look at it.
Yeah. Management plan looks easier, but it's long-term.
Forever.
Monitoring.
Forever.
Monitoring, if we're under, we're golden. And so what dice do we want to roll? I'm sorry, Mr. Kramer.
Is anyone else bothered by the statement that our ag department doesn't know what it's talking about?
Yes, we
I
were.
knew you were going to say that.
We were.
They had some canned response that like, oh, well, they don't look at the same the levels of and that we have a different set of prevent. Also, their order in general is just really confusing. So when we approached the ag department in the first place to get their consult, because they know this more than we do, you know, they've already redone their order twice since then. So there could be, could have been confusing things in there as well that the ag was basing that on. But again, I don't, this isn't enough for me to make. Yes, it's going to be a bunch of work for us either way. So I'm relying on the council. That's the point of this council, is to help us make that decision. And if it has to come down to really cool votes, one vote throws it. I mean, we can do that.
So, I
And
mean,
again, that also brings, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
My other concern again is, as you indicated, if they're already questioning the results given by another entity within our county, and we do our pyrethroid testing and we submit it for those 4 locations, like Jenny said, are they going to be satisfied? Here we spent all this money to do this, to make sure that we had below the baseline. And then they come back and say, well, no, we're not quite satisfied with the data that you submitted to us. We need to have more testing given here and here and here. And by the way, that might not, I think that you are over the baseline. So now you have a management plan. Then all of a sudden we're still behind because we haven't had time to do the management plan, because we were hoping that they'd be satisfied with the testing. So, my thinking process is that we be positive going forward, but expect the worst. So if you can, if we go ahead with the monitoring, I think that's fine. But I think in the back of our head, we also need to already have a rough draft going ahead on the management plan.
Like we need to have more clear instructions about what that the components of that management plan should be.
And we did get an outline in the order of what that would be, but we also got an outline of the monitoring plan, and they also had lots of qualms with that. So, and then just for reference, these are the 5 different pyrethrin types that they're looking for. And then there's a total, and then there's some other parameters like some organic carbon and dissolved carbon and things that we take in the lake, and streams anyways that we can do. But if we do a sampling and we find one of these is trigger level, our management plan is very specific for, well, what products does contain this, cyfluorfluorine, then let's just put out some outreach material on those products, and that addresses our problem. Versus if we do a management plan without the monitoring, we're addressing all of these and then, doing a lot of extra. Right. Or we're over on all those triggers, but at least now we know. And then any improvement with the management plan is, and again, that could be over, a several years process or something.
And that's basically what Joyce was saying, is we can't have a management plan if we don't know what the data is, or else it's
we're managing.
Dark.
Right. And that's what we're doing with our TMDL. We didn't have the right data for 20 years, and then we're out of compliance, and now we have to do these crazy tools and do everything with the assumptions because we didn't collect the data the right way because the water board didn't tell us what exactly they wanted and where.
If we do a management plan, would the cost of the management plan be split between the 3 jurisdictions?
I always give the option for them. Yes. If you got, yeah.
So what I think, obviously, I think we continue with the monitoring plan and see what we can do with that, and then look into what the cost is for the management plan, so that at least as we get closer and closer to finalizing a budget for the new fiscal year, we might be able to implement that in case that needs to be rushed and done within the next fiscal year. If we don't have any idea of what the actual cost is, we might be very surprised and trying to find ways to get the money for it.
That sounds good. So,
I agree with that. I mean,
so we're in agreement.
Lakeport in our draft budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Lakeport in our draft budget, we're kind of anticipating not knowing what the state is going to do. So we've kind of set aside some money just because it's very much up in the air, and we do have to turn right around with our MS4. And so we've set aside more money than we ever have before for a lot of these studies, and not knowing, just shot in the dark, like, oh, this should be enough.
Did I understand you right that we could do the monitoring of this with what we're already monitoring at the same time?
We were planning on starting some monitoring this year and incorporating this monitoring into that, with the county doing the monitoring with an MOU reimbursement program between Lakeport and Clear Lake, and our staff and our tools and lab contracts being able to do that and just getting that work reimbursed from the cities. And then we already, when we started this monitoring plan last year, we informed the cities to start budgeting for it because we had a rough estimate. So those budgets should already be in there for conducting that sampling.
Right.
And then if you want me to, I'll tell EOA to give us an official proposal on what it would cost for them to do a pyrethroid management plan. And is that something that you want me to bring back to the full council, or do you trust the stormwater coordinators for us, like to discuss if the price seems reasonable, to then go ahead and at least initial or start the contract paperwork with them? If it's, do we want to set a limit under a certain amount, or we have no idea? If we feel like we aren't comfortable deciding that on our own for that cost, we can reconvene a clean water program meeting.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what that amount would be in a rough estimate?
No idea. For the program assessment, that was about I think 40 or 26,000 for all of us, 25. But that was a lot of, they had to reach out to us and ask us questions and do a lot of things that's never been done before. So they already have that legwork done, and a lot of that would then be useful going forward for the pyrethroid plan. This is also one of their first ones they've done, so we could ask for like guinea pig discount. Is that a thing?
Right.
So
There you
is
go,
your
you're
bottom
good.
line, is your expectation that it'll be not more than 25,000?
I would be surprised if it was more than 25,000. So I think 20,000 is probably a good, but if I reach out to them and have a proposal and then ask, get the estimate amount and it's way off base, I can confer and we can have another meeting to decide to go forward. Or if it's under 20,000 or 15, whatever we want to decide, we can go ahead and just start that.
I'm not a voting member, but that sounds like a not to exceed authorization would be a good way for you to go.
And there's a question, Bruno.
Because we don't know if we even have to do a management plan yet, I would say let's not even spend the money if we don't have to, because if the monitoring shows off really great numbers, they're not going to ask us to do so. Granted, it feels like that's what they're going to push us to, but at least we would be ready to go knowing that this is already set aside to create the management plan. But why spend the money if we don't have to? That would be my suggestion.
Right. Okay.
Well, I say do the management. I say get us a price on get us a price, do the monitoring, get us a price on the management. And because I think it's going to need to be done no matter what. And the longer you wait to do these things, the more expensive they get. If we have a chance to get somebody we can kind of be their, guinea pig, I guess you call it, and we can get it for less, I think we should do it. Because the longer you wait, every year adds, wages go up, everything goes up. I say that I'd rather do it now because we know it's gonna, the state's gonna require it eventually, whether it's 2 years from now or 5 years from now. If we already have it in place, we'd be much better off.
Right. Or at least we say we're planning to get it done at this time. So we're gonna do the monitoring and we're gonna follow up with a management plan in say 2023, 2024. That's a good timeline. Based off the monitoring information, we can actually make a better management plan that actually serves our purposes and what we have here.
Yeah. So, that's my suggestion, that we go with, and that we do the monitoring with the idea of making our management plan with a not to exceed. I think you can just bring that back to us. I think we just need a quote. I don't think we're in a per se, I say get a quote, and if we have to have a special meeting, I would prefer to do that and get the information.
All right, I think that sounds like is there anyone else that has any insight on this or input? Because it sounds like that's what we'll probably do, unless there's any objections to that. All right, do you need a consensus? Do you need us to vote on it?
I did have it as an action item, yes. For to move forward with the monitoring plan was the action item, and then to get a quote for the management plan with the decision at a future meeting for that. That seems like right.
So I'll make that motion.
So there's a motion on the floor.
Anybody second?
We just need a second.
It's Marina. I second.
Or a second by Marina. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and pass this action item 7A unanimously and move on to item 7B, new permit workshops.
Yay, okay. Thank you guys so much. We'll move along here and I'll try to be quick. So we have a new permit starting soon and they're having workshops. So the one is June 15th, 9 through 12 or 9 to 12. I sent all the emails for that to all the stormwater coordinators. Make sure you register for that. There are other region workshops, other dates and times, but they're not for our region. So this is the one that we want. And it's in your interest, each jurisdiction to attend on your own. So you can answer any questions that are specific to your jurisdiction for those, for the new permit. Then there's a virtual training coming up. So we're technically supposed to have trainings like this. We've never had one with this group of people before. But I think this would count for our credit for that if we attend this. It's a similar, San Joaquin, they have similar issues as us. They're rural, they're collaborative partnership. And it would get us a good way to look at what we liked about the training and what we don't. Remember that we still have about $10,000 miscellaneous funds for EOA to help us develop trainings and put on trainings for us. We just don't know yet what that looks like or where we need training. So I think this might be a good opportunity. Anyone that's interested to go, it's only $60 a person attendee, but it'll give us a good idea of things that we like, we don't like. And then, it'll also get that credit for the training for whoever goes. So I would encourage at least one person from each jurisdiction to attend this. We have a new stormwater inspector that's coming on next week and he's going to be attending this as well. So is there any questions about that? And I believe I sent this out to you guys, but if not, you can just go to the San Joaquin Valley Stormwater Quality Partnership page and it's on there. Plus a lot of other cool stuff that they have. It's like Stormwater NB. Any questions?
I don't think there is.
Okay.
So we will move on to item 7C, new clean water program logo, $500 max, 400/100 refinement, and see old logos above.
So this is another discussion. I don't know if we want to table it to the next meeting for time.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Just know that we don't have a really good logo for this program. These were two over time, and it's really hard as we're conducting all of our outreach materials and we're doing stuff jointly. To not have a really nice logo going forward makes it very kind of difficult. So let's think about it and we'll table it for the next.
Table this one. Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah. Does anybody feel like they want to move forward right now with it, or we can table this?
Is there any logo passionate?
All right. So it looks like we'll move on to 7D, stormwater resources, source water management plan development.
Yeah, so Rachel Kennard from Cal Rural Water Association that helped us with our monitoring plan development. She is a source water specialist. They are drinking water specialists there. I reached out to her and her group because in order for us to get funding through things like Proposition 1, Prop 84 was the old one. If we want any infrastructure state funds, we have to have what's called a stormwater resource water management plan. This is the snapshot of the one that for Yolo County. And I reached out to her group. We're in talks. So we're unique in that our stormwater resources is our drinking water, right? Where does all our stormwater go? To our drinking water source. So I wanted to develop a stormwater resource plan with the focus of drinking water and with drinking water folks, because both of those things are the same thing for us here. So I'm reaching out to them. I just want to let you guys know that that's something that we're doing to get an idea of, you know, what that plan might entail, if there's anything we have already existing that would be able to work in that, and then get some ideas about cost. Rachel is doing work on this for us pro bono as part of her job, and as part of someone who's interested in drinking water in Clear Lake. And so I really want to make sure that we utilize her skill set and her enthusiasm and excitement to help with that, so that we can better manage our stormwater. Stormwater impacts groundwater, our drinking water, and then as we know now, we're in water scarcity. If there was a way that we could capture stormwater and use it for other things before it even, you know, gets to the lake, or we recharge our groundwater tables, or we use it locally in localized settings, if there's another way for us to do that, I want to be able to explore that in the most effective way, as well as considering the eventual drinking water impact that it has. If there's anybody that's questioned about that, you guys can reach out to me, and I just wanted to update that to the group, because we are limited in our funds because we don't have this plan. So we can't get any funds from propositions for infrastructure stuff because we don't have one of these existing already. Is there any questions about that? Does all that make sense?
So,
Okay. So as that goes on, I'll be able to keep the group updated.
okay.
On that.
All right. So let's move on to number 8, stormwater program sustainability.
So I did just want to remind you guys, we have an agreement, joint program agreement. And I wanted to see, again, we have another, have a discussion, or at least start the process of thinking about the things that are in the agreement that we put in there to generate some revenue or put funds together to be able to carry out certain stormwater projects and programs. So it starts with section 2, that as the, to lay out the district, that's the watershed protection district, is the program manager. And so we basically do administration of the permit, the technical program management, setting up meetings, making sure everybody gets, you know, all the materials. And then we're also responsible for providing secretary at all the committee meetings, recording meetings, distributing minutes, all those kinds of admin things. However, each party, this is item G in section 2, responsible for implementing stormwater management plan within their jurisdiction. And then each party agrees to participate in program management council meetings, these meetings, as well as work group meetings, and anything else that's required, like those trainings, annual trainings, in order to comply with the permit. Section 3 of our agreement is that the program management council, that's all of us, is created to make recommendations for the overall management coordination, as well as review budget considerations and conflict resolution. And then item 3.10 right here is that we shall recommend timelines and budgets for completion of program tasks. So we have this section 4 here that talks about collective budgets for aspects of the program that are to be shared by all parties. And that we have that program budget supposed to be developed by February 1st and then presented to the boards for final approval. So basically asking our representative, you know, governments to put in funds for collective stormwater projects. We've never done this before. This is from the original agreement from 2006, when this, the joint program between all of our jurisdictions were together, but we've never actually followed through on this. There's also supposed to be this 10% budget contingency reserve funds. And that's for if there's like stormwater emergencies or something like this pops up, the state says we have to do something and we need to be able to pay for it. And then the breakdown of those is based on population numbers. And then depending if it was like we did some area, we included area for the TMDL because that was actually taking space on spatial area, not just populations. And then we also said that we have a yearly assessment by August 1st of each year to a fund established for program operations for their assigned portion of the program budget for mutual program efforts. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention that currently the program, the way it's going, it's not really sustainable. We're barely able to make, you know, these things, these put out fires as they come along, and we're still not fully compliant with our program. If we got audited at any time, we would just be, you know, pretty pretty out of luck on some of those things. And so I wanted to just kind of introduce this. I did have an action item to direct a budget, and if there was a stormwater, like a county-wide stormwater coordinator position, I think that would be ideal. There are some jurisdictions that utilize consultants for that work, and they reach out and do all the trainings, and they figure out all the program requirements, and then they do the reporting, and then everybody stays compliant. Obviously, that would be more expensive, and those county dollars then are going out of county to a consultant. But I just wanted to introduce this. I kind of touched on a little bit last time, but in order for this program to sustain and for us to really see improvements in stormwater, and apply for grants on behalf of all of our jurisdictions to improve stormwater programs, we really need that central position to do that, or a consultant, and we could pay for it through collective budgets through this way. Is there any questions so far on anything? Does this make sense?
Hey, this is Joyce, sorry. Do you have like a cost of what, if we were to hire somebody, do you have an idea of what that would cost? Or could we get that information?
Yeah, if the council wanted me to develop some of that budget and what it would be, yes, I can do that for the next meeting. I did do some research. There are other jurisdictions that all have stormwater program managers or technicians or coordinators. So this is something that's pretty typical in other municipalities and other cities to have this position. And so I can definitely reach out to these places and get like a table and see what the stormwater program costs. There's not just position, there's program costs as well. But I could kind of put that together and see what that would be. There's a lot of positions people hired right now, so it's a great way to look at salary ranges for these positions that are open as well. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on going forward. This is something that's useful. Daniela and I are doing our best, but we're there's things that we can't build any more capacity on what we're doing, and we are doing a lot of stuff that's having mutual program benefits, not just for the county. That cost burden should be shared equally, time and cost.
What's the penalty for not passing the audit? It sounds a little dire to me.
For not passing an audit?
And you just said we couldn't pass an audit.
I don't think that we could. I don't know. It's not in the water board's interest to fine us. We haven't been compliant with our TMDL, and they could fine up to $1,000 a day for out of compliance if we were basically ignoring them and not doing anything. We've been able to be like, we need more time. Oh, we've had a fire, we had floods, like we had a staff turnover, like we've been able to kind of piece it together. But the fact is that stormwater, everything produces stormwater. Whenever you're building something, stormwater, roads produce stormwater. When there's a spill, that's environmental health, there's impacts that way. All of that stuff impacts stormwater, and we really need a central position to be able to coordinate all of that among the jurisdictions and their departments that all do that.
Do you have a recommendation?
I can get information on what the consequences of an audit would be. It's not in their interest to make a county like ours go bankrupt from paying the audit, but what it definitely would do would put more scrutiny on us over time, and so it'd be very hard for us to then no longer be able to meet things because we would be under the watchful eye.
Do you have a recommendation?
I would love a stormwater coordinator. We had one when the Clean Water Program was developed. When it was started, we had a grant, and there was some general fund that was put toward a stormwater coordinator. Was it Stan? Daniela, is that the paperwork? I'm trying to remember. There was somebody in planning that was a stormwater coordinator, his actual position. And so our stormwater management plan was created. All of everything that was set up then for when we got our very first permit was set up for about 5 years, and then 2008 came, and then that position left, and then there was a grant fund that ended.
Would that person help to for the county and other all the jurisdictions to be able to pass this audit if you had that person?
I mean, I think the role, they would be strictly dedicated to managing stormwater, both for our permits, but also, just making sure that we are in compliant and we're doing everything. The stormwater person would also, they would be looking for grants, applying for grants, facilitating those. They could be writing that management plan or had more time to dedicate to writing that monitoring plan, right? And save us a lot of this. We're spending a lot of time and money on consultants, and a lot of that stuff could be done in-house if we had a full-time person and that was their expertise. And they knew exactly what the water board was looking for. And that was what they did. So it would save time that way as well. And I think with an audit, definitely, if we had a stormwater coordinator that was focused on getting us compliant, then passing an audit would be more likely, or at least maybe there would be a few things that we would need to adjust to then meet that,
So then the question is, how much does that person going to cost in salary and associated cost to have that person on? It seems to me that's the information. That's the information that this commission needs to be able to make their own recommendation or to make a recommendation.
I had a question.
Well,
Go ahead. Who's that that has a question?
Bonnie.
Go ahead,
My
Bonnie.
my question again, when we first started getting this back together, putting it all together, that was one of the first things that we were talking is how to make this sustainable. What fees do we have out there that would help bring in revenue for the budget for this program? And what other options do we have in order to make it sustainable? Because I think the overall understanding that we all had was that different departments were just taking on those costs, and there wasn't a specific budget for the program itself. So no one really understood the extent of the costs versus the income of the program. And I know for a fact that Lakeport, of course, has the impervious surface fees that we have with our building permits, which I don't believe Clear Lake or the county have, and they are allowed to do so. I'm thinking that with not just what Angela said, but I think that it might behoove us to actually look who is paying for what are the costs for the flyers and the educational outreach, and what is the cost of these different things, and are we charging any fees to the public for any of the things that they do incorrectly, if there's an illicit discharge, or if there's grading without permits, which is causing erosion into the culverts into the waterway. And I'm just thinking that it's easy for us to just sort of try to determine, let's bring another person on, but how are we going to pay for it, and how are we going to bring money in to cover that? And I think that if we at least individually look at, okay, so under what department is paying for what, so that we have an overall understanding of how much this is costing us, how much we are, and then plan, how are we going to get some more revenues in there? Or is this always going to be just covered by general funds and leave it at that? Because at the end of the day, any audit, that's all they're going to want to know is, okay, who's paying for what and where is it recorded? That's my question. Sorry.
Well, this is Joyce. So for me, is unless we know how much this position is going to cost us, it's going to really be hard for us to determine how much money, one, we're going to need. And of course, that's going to go up every year. So then we need, and then looking at where that money can be coming from. How do we put it on a permit, or by, where can this money be determined? So if nothing else, I'd like to have an idea of approximate what we feel this is going to cost. And then we can each go to our cities and our counties and start looking into what can we do to keep this a sustainable position. I'm not saying we're going to run out and hire them right now, but it's really hard for me to go in and talk to our city manager when I just say, hey, this position is going to be 100,000, 150,000, or 50,000. Where can we and how can we fund this position, help fund this position at the county level? So I think that's the reason why I was asking for just an analyzing of a cost. and then we can all look into our each individual entities and find out how can we help fund this. But it's hard to know what we're funding if I don't have a base of where I'm starting at.
And that was the action item, was to ask the council to direct a budget for a stormwater position coordinator and or consultant. We can look at a consultant too,
Right.
knowing that it does take a effort to get a consultant, someone has to be there to facilitate the consultant and do all that. But it was just, the action item was to ask about that. Do you guys are you interested in this? Do you guys support this? And then can I, for the next meeting, prepare the budgets, what it would look like? And then also the stormwater is an asset, right? We have no idea what the true cost is because we've never actually been fully compliant and actually spent the right money and the time to complete everything the way that we're supposed to. And also the resource is not to the quality that it should be. So this position, we really don't know what the true cost is, but I can put together the budgets and what it's costing us now, and then what we would expect to be in compliant and to actually improve the infrastructure and the water quality with that position. I could put that together because that was the ask for today. Was the direction to do that.
That's what I would. Yeah, I would like to make the motion that we have her put that together and bring it back to us.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
And I do see we have a public member too, so I didn't know if we wanted to.
Okay, so I'll hold that motion for public. If you're in the public, go ahead and unmute and give us your perspective.
Thank you. This is Betsy Kahn. I would like to point out that the 1% of the property taxes that is that the auditor controller collects and distributes to special districts, a significant chunk of that money goes to the years. The assumption has been that money is what has been paying for the staff of the Department of Water Resources to serve the district. You guys need to look at how much money you have in those pockets of money. You have that 1% of the property tax, which is yours and mine. You also have other funds that are coming in. The last time this was looked at was by LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, and they did a very poor job of identifying the obligations for the funding that the district has in its budget allocations. So in 2014, when they made the decision, I believe the funding for the Watershed Protection District was around $2.2 million. And I would recommend that you actually look at what public money you have and what you're doing with it. Angela and her crew have filled in admirably of water resources, in charge of the Watershed Protection District. You're missing some of this opportunity that you have. It's already, the money is being spent, in other words. So I encourage you to look at that.
Thank you, Betsy.
So that's not a bad point. Where is the money coming from that we should be putting to this program, and how much do we have in that? I'd like to make the motion, amend my motion to include that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor and it's been amended. Is there a second?
I make a second with the amendment included.
Thank you, Marina. Is there anyone that opposes this motion? Hearing none, we will go ahead and pass that motion unanimously and move on to, is it B? Or because I thought you mentioned 8B in that, Angela, mentioning stormwater reuse municipal grant program. That was included into what we were talking about, or is that something else you want to bring up?
That's just, there's been a call for stormwater programs under section 221 CWA. So it's a huge federal grant. There's lots of funds there. I'd like to get my hands on it. We just don't have the capacity. I want to try to go for it and get some funds for us. I just wanted to be aware if there's anybody that wants to take on looking at that or has some ideas for stormwater projects in their jurisdiction. You know, there's planning funds in there as well as implementation, but it's currently it's over my capability to apply for that on behalf of the Clean Water Program. So a stormwater coordinator position that we were looking at could
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah.
would go, they, like part of their job between all of our contributions and getting grants and then maybe looking at fees and setting all that up, they could, within 5 years, sustain their position very easily. We're missing out on a lot of funds. We haven't been able to get stormwater funds for years and years, like 15 years, because we haven't had the capacity to just go after them and get what's needed. So I just wanted to reiterate that. I would love to be able to get my hands on the stormwater money. I'm trying, but I'm also, you know, we also have other projects that are in our direct scope that we have to do as well. So I just wanted to make that another point under that as well from before. But that's it for that. And if anybody wants more information on that grant, I can send you the link. I have that.
All right. Joyce, did you have something or were we?
I mean,
Okay.
I am going to have to leave the meeting. I'm sorry. So I just wanted to let you know I am going to be getting off the phone here. So, but no, I think we need to do that. We need to check in, and I agree. I think we're missing out on a lot of money here because we don't have this position, and I think we need to definitely look into how we can fund it.
Thank you, Joyce.
Hey, Joyce.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Move on to
Convenient, your alternates here. So that works.
9A, TMDL and pyrethroid. And we talked about that, but I think there's a reason why you have it on there twice, right? So.
It's just part of the work group. So our next TMDL work group will be that training for the BMP. And then when we figure out the pyrethroid, we'll if we have that management plan, we'll probably establish a work group for that if we go forward with that management plan. But that's all I have. And then the other work groups can present their info here.
Okay, it looks like I'm second for the construction, post and pre-construction BMPs, etc. Our meeting was pretty good. Our next meeting will be July 14th at 3. And anybody's welcome to be there. If you want to attend, please let me know and we'll add you to the Zoom. We discussed obviously the LID manual or low impact development manual, the appendices, since it does impact construction. We also discussed the contractor's guide that the Record B sends out yearly for the community. And so I encouraged them to come up with content opportunities so that it won't obviously make it in this year since it's already out, but it is something that we can in the fall address and have everything ready to go so that that information can be placed in the contractor's guide. So, and I encourage anybody else that has suggestions on how we can incorporate stormwater information to do so. We also discussed the opening of the grading season because again, our meeting was in April and that was just the beginning of grading season. They are planning on monitoring it this year so that we can have a, when we have our close of the season in October, we can discuss what was done, how we can improve, inclusive of forms of how many people were doing things that they should not be doing. So that way we can update our grading permits and also address any outstanding issues in regards to grading. There was a grading flyer made up and so that Angela showed that information to everyone at our meeting. It was really great. I believe it's an attachment to this meeting as well. If you didn't get it, I hope that you do because it was fun, colorful, to the point. And for our permit, it was encouraged that each jurisdiction be giving those out as well as posting it so that people understand if they do require a stormwater permit for grading or for construction. Then Austin Pratt from Public Works or Water Resources. Thank you, ma'am. He did a presentation on the drain markers around the county and how's it impacting stormwater and how it is really important. And that was he showed a lot of photos, which were really educational and informative. And it was really a great presentation. So Austin was awesome. If you get a chance to ask him questions. There's Austin. You know, again, he did an awesome job and he's really involved and passionate about what he does. So I commend him on that. But that was basically everything for our meeting. Our next meeting again is in July. We'll be addressing a bunch of other issues. If people have suggestions of what they'd like us to discuss, I'm always open to that as well. So feel free to call or email me. And I'm done. Next.
All right. Next, we have item C.
It's our turn?
Yes.
Okay, so we have not had a meeting yet. I was a little unsure on who those was. I had a spreadsheet on who was on the work group, but I didn't see any other names. But in the meantime, we had come up with a spill response and prevention inspection checklist that we want to use for our public works yard and some commercial businesses as well, such as equipment storage areas, secondary containment systems, and floor drains, storm receiver inlets and outlets. And we want to place that in our courtyard where we have all of our fluids. And we have also come up with good housekeeping practices, a checklist of, if you will, identifying impacts to our stormwater and receiving waters, identifying appropriate BMPs, inspection procedures and maintenance, like minimizing fertilizer application, limiting our water necessary to the rainwater, and identifying nutrient, water needs, and such. And then that's all we have so far. And Mark was going to talk about some of the training we will be attending.
So I've been researching some training. So there's various courses with UC Davis that I've been looking into, water protection courses. Some of the ones I've been looking at are at UC Davis extended learning that I think would help benefit myself, Addie, and probably a couple other of our staff members in the office that review and process an array of land use applications. So I'm currently trying to get us signed up for the next available courses, which I think is either end of June or beginning of July, depending on if their schedule's changed.
Thanks, Mark. And then anything that you guys do sign up for, any trainings like that, just send it to the group so we can make sure, you know, we all have needs for more education and learning how to do things. So we could always use any more of those opportunities to attend.
And I think we even get more of a discount if the more people that sign up. So I think the classes drop in price for the more individuals. I'm not sure if it's per agency or it can just be a group, and I'll clarify it with them. So if we get like 10 people, it might be maybe $100 cheaper per class. I don't know, but I'll ask them that.
And then we had a question from Andrew, if there is a work group, community subcommittee or work group meeting pending, and Addie, yes, said you will send an invite out. Yep. That sounds great. As long as we have opportunities for representation from all the jurisdiction, that would be swell.
Okay. And that's it.
Anything else on that item? Or can we move on to item D? All right.
Public education outreach program and public participation involvement. So we had several meetings. And we had the flyer that Bonnie talked about was created in part of that effort, thanks to our Civic Spark Liam, Civic Spark Fellow. He also created this Toolies and Clear Lake flyer, which we have on our website, and then we sent it to both Lakeport and Clear Lake to distribute. Just because there's a lot of activity, especially as the water is receding, people doing things with Toolies. Toolies are our buffer. So our stormwater is what we manage, but all that stormwater flows into the shoreline. And if there's Toolies there, they can filter it and buffer it before the impacts get to the lake. So we want to make sure that people are protecting their Toolies. So we really thank our Civic Spark Liam for putting these together. He's been an essential component of this work group. And then we already did the drain marker update. I think you did a good job, Bonnie, on that. Austin is out there in the sun installing those all over county. If anybody's interested in getting a couple hours in and installing drain markers, let us know. He'd love some company. And then Daniela, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's most of what we've had covered. We'll be putting up the story map that I shared the last meeting soon on our website.
Right, and we have been discussing with county videographer to put together some stormwater PSAs. We got a nice long time, but it's going to creep up. But you know, we want to get stormwater PSAs out, their videos, short clips, social media, and then other venues before next stormwater season, whenever that is. But you know, before the September, October deadline, we want to have something that we could ready to roll out as soon as it looks like we're beginning some stormy weather.
Okay, so I think the next is E, trash.
That is my work group. We've had 2 meetings since our last management council committee meeting, and we got a lot of stuff done. County jurisdiction got all of our trash assessments done for the spring 2021, which is in our trash implementation plan. And so did City of Lakeport. I don't know if City of Clear Lake got theirs done yet. And what we noticed as far as the county goes for our spring assessments is that there has been more garbage now in this one. There's a lot more areas that have either moderate or high garbage rates. So this will give us a good baseline of, hey, where do we need to put more trash cans, or where do we need to enforce some more of these things? And then we also discussed the illegal dumping issue that has been happening countywide and what we can do to help mitigate those issues, and also help our enforcement powers and giving them the information. And then also promoting community events across jurisdictions. So City of Lakeport has their spring and fall household community cleanup events, which invites the residents to go and get rid of excess clutter from their house, which helps out with the illegal dumping. So if we promote those across the board, if we're doing stuff in county, we could promote within the cities as well. Which brings me to the next point, is that our Civic Sparks from county and city are putting on a shoreline cleanup event coming up on June 19th, and that'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they have 3 different areas that they'll be covering. There'll be one station at Library Park in Lakeport. So you just go check in, and then they have equipment, and then they'll let you go pick up some trash and then bring back and dump there at that area. And then another station will be Lucerne Harbor Park and Redbud Park in Clear Lake. That's all I have for trash, and I think I have the next one, or
Yeah, IDDE.
yeah, IDDE. So we've met 3 times for IDDE, and we are in the beginning stages of having a draft.
What's that acronym stand for? Sorry.
Illicit discharge detection and elimination. An IDDE plan set in place, like we have our trash plan. So I've been getting a lot of very good input from the work group members, and I have a timeline set. It's an ambitious timeline, but I'm going to try to keep it to it. I'll be getting that out to the final draft version from my internal review in water resources to jurisdictions, so that they could review it and then have it to the management council by the August meeting, so you guys can look it over before we go and distribute it back to our jurisdictions. And then we also discussed how this IDDE plan is going to place a lot more, we're going to have a lot more work to do. One of the items is outfall mapping. We do have outfall mapping currently, but it's outdated. So we have to update that, and having this resources and staff available to go out and map all of those things, and having the technology to share that data across jurisdictions. And so we have a deadline set to have that done within the next year. And then also getting an inventory for commercial and industrial facilities, and City of Lakeport is working on that with their business licenses. Andrew has done a lot to get me in contact and get the information that I need for that. And then I'm doing my own with planning data, and then also our GIS county data, and just grouping those together. And then the last part was tracking spills and testing for what we'll need more resources for. So this would be a good, we would get a lot of help if we did have that stormwater coordinator to coordinate and manage all of those tasks. And then we also talked about training. I know Environmental Health Director of Environmental Health, Craig Weatherby, has some first responder hazmat training coming up at the end of May. So I'll be taking part of that on behalf of Water Resources. And I encourage other jurisdictions, if you don't have that training, to get that training to meet those IDDE requirements. And then we just talked about enforcement again, like the trash work group, that there is a lot that's going on. That community has been asking like more enforcement, more outreach. So we talked about that. And that's all I have.
Daniela, we were also talking about having another one of the oil spill response trainings at some point too.
Oh, yeah.
Because we do have a spill response trailer in county and Lakeport. And sometimes these spills are from marinas, but then they go out in the lake, so they can impact multiple jurisdictions. And we want to make sure that we're ready for any spills, especially because it takes CDFW, if it's a major spill, it takes CDFW a while to get out here, but we have some resources. We just want to make sure that all staff and jurisdictions can lend a helping hand if something like that happens. So I think we were gonna do an
and
update on that.
I talked about that to my work group. I took like the highlights of my meeting. I guess I'll let that out, but the cities both reached out that said they would want to be involved in that training.
There's a public comment or question, raise hand.
Yes, go ahead. Betsy?
Thank you. This is a little late because it's part of the previous one, the IDDE, but I received an announcement this morning that on this coming Saturday, that's today, and that's the day after tomorrow, household hazardous waste drop-off in the Lucerne Alpine Park from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is actually published by the Public Services Director, but it would be great if you guys would connect with him, because the Public Services Department and the Sheriff's Department and Code Enforcement, and I think you, Mr. Crandall, are putting together a task force to look at all these problems on the North Shore, maybe more than the North Shore, but I know it's happening on the North Shore. I know that Lars Ewing is working on this and trying to coordinate. And so I'm just trying to connect those dots for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'll forward this to you and to Danielle. Thank you.
Yeah, I see that. I wanted to post that myself. I have a copy of it. I just need to convert it.
I put some flyers up on the North Shore, the post offices, and then Century Market. So that was on Tuesday, I believe. So hopefully people are seeing those.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on this, or should we move on to, I think it is item 10, review 2021 schedule.
Okay. Oh, and that was a schedule for the work groups. Here we go. Our next meeting is August 12th at 2 p.m. At this time, it's still remote, but we'll see as the date gets closer how county and cities are having meetings and stuff, and assess then. But as of right now, we'll still just keep it remote. I think it's easier. All of us can attend this way as well. We do have our year end it's June 30th. So all of our reporting for the year, everything we have to do to be compliant with this year has to be done by June 30th. So and then we have to report on it by October 15th or October 30th. So we'll have a year-end reporting meeting. And that's mostly for the coordinators for the jurisdictions, but I just wanted to be made aware that this is when we put everything together and do our year-end reports. They all align, so we can then just put them into Smarts. And so we all have the same information. Smarts the water board looks at every single one of ours and sees who of us have uploaded stuff and who hasn't. And then our last meeting of the year will be around November 11th. And then we have a TMDL work plan due in August. And then if we do a management plan, that would be in August, or our monitoring will be due after our next sample season. The actual monitoring will be due. That's all for schedule.
Thank you. Is there any other questions about this timeline or the meetings or anything of that nature? I don't see any. Okay, if there's not, let's move on to public comment. If there's anyone that would like to speak for 3 minutes during this period, please raise your hand and move forward from there. If you guys see it, please call it out on me. I'm on my phone, so I'm scrolling through to.
I don't see anything.
Okay, I don't see anything. So with that being said, I think we are at a point where we can adjourn. Is there any other questions? I see that you wrote on there. I like how it says questions. I appreciate everything that came forward today. We had a lot of healthy discussion on a lot of these items, and I think we have a path forward. And when we meet next over, we can make these key decisions to help you with some of these things that I know you want to move forward on. I really am looking forward to trying to do something about a coordinator, because it looks like we really need that. But please bring us back what we need, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for sharing today. Supervisor Kondo, I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. I guess this means we are adjourned. Do I need to motion it, or can I just say we're adjourned and
Is
go?
anybody
bam?
opposed
I like that.
to adjourning?
I have
Have
a
a great
gavel.
day,
I can
great.
plan it if you want.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Not
Have a
a
good
You
day.
too, bye.
Mhm.